Hello, all. Welcome back to what was previously known as the Exposing Grief YouTube channel, which has now been moved to the Best Self Therapy YouTube channel. So we're making some changes in the new year. I know it's been probably about a year since I've been away, but I took some time, took a little break. I was doing a lot of business kind of things, which is great. But it was taking away from where my true passion lies, which is sitting with clients and guiding them through their grief journeys and other life transitions that prevent them from living their life as their best self. So I took a little pause, reevaluated, and we are back, baby. So one of the changes we are making is switching from Exposing Grief YouTube channel to the Best Self Therapy YouTube channel. Best Self Therapy is the name of my practice. And while grief is still very important, I do also focus on other life obstacles and transitions that might bring grief or other sort of mental health battles such as anxiety and depression. So I wanted my YouTube channel to reflect everything that I do in my practice. So while we will still be focusing on grief and exposing it for what it truly is, which is that natural, healthy way of living and loving, we will also be looking at other things that can influence our life and our ability to live life as our best self. So the Best Self Therapy YouTube channel's mission is to provide you with tools, skills, and exercises that are going to allow you to live life as your best self. So kicking off the new year, we're going to talk about goals. I know. We do goals. Everyone sets them. Some people have different feelings about them. But I want to talk to you about setting SMART goals. We're going to talk about what those are. We're going to break it down. But oftentimes when we set a goal, we reach it, and then what happens? We either don't maintain or we never get to it in the first place. So SMART goals are going to allow you to set goals that are going to be attainable. You're going to be able to stay on top of them, and they're applicable to multiple other goals. So once you reach the first goal, you can apply it to other goals as well. So let's dive in. Let's kick off this new year to a good, fresh start. So we know that the new year is great for setting goals. One of the biggest obstacles that I will see that prevent people from either setting goals for one or allowing them to stay on track with their goals is we set goals a little bit too big. We kind of look more at the bigger picture as opposed to crunching it down to make it more attainable. So when I talk to clients about goals, whether it's weight loss goals, therapy goals, business goals, whatever it might be, whatever goal they're working towards, I like to talk to them about SMART goals. So there should be a little image that pops up here, and I want you to take a look at this, and we're going to break each of these down. But when we talk about SMART goals, we are talking about we want specific goals. And like I said, we're going to break these down each individually. We want specific goals. We want them to be measurable. We want them to be achievable. We're looking for goals that are relevant. And then we also want those goals to fit within a certain time frame. So when we talk about these SMART goals, that is what we are looking for. So let's break each of these down to talk about what that actually means. Okay, so now we have an idea of what the SMART goals concept is. We at least know what SMART stands for. Let's break each of these down, starting with specific. So go ahead and have a pen and paper next to you. Don't worry about looking at the screen. It's just going to be an image of the category per se that we're talking about. So have a pen and paper, jot these things down as I walk you through it. So we're going to start with specific goals. What does that mean when we say a specific goal? Typically, when we set a goal, they can be very vague or very broad. So we want to narrow that in. We want to fine tune that to a very certain goal. So let's take fitness or weight loss, for example, as that's a very common one that a lot of people work towards. So if we have a goal of, I want to be in shape. Okay, that's pretty vague. That's pretty broad. We have an idea that that means you want to improve your fitness capacity, but to what degree? Let's narrow that down. Let's be more specific. So do you want to be in shape endurance-wise? Do you want to be able to run a marathon comfortably? Do you want to be in shape strength-wise? Do you want to be strong and be able to lift things? Now, this doesn't mean you have to do one or the other, but these are where we break it down into kind of what are the sub goals or the subcategories of that big overall goal. But start with one. We'll get into this. Start with one. So go ahead and list some of the specific goals that you're working towards, and then maybe just circle one specific goal that you want to look at through the rest of this exercise. So go ahead and take your time, list out specific goals that you might have, really fine tune, really narrow them. and then circle one main goal you want to start with, and then use that goal as we walk through the next step, these next parts of the SMART goals. Okay, do you have your specific goal that we're going to work on? So go ahead and make sure you circle that specific goal. Now we're going to look at how do we make that one specific goal measurable? What do we mean by measurable? Well, we want to be able to measure it. How do we know that you're making progress? So if we use that same example of my specific goal is I want to increase my endurance. Okay, great. Specifically, I want to increase my endurance around running. Okay, so I want my measurable goal to be either I want to be able to run a mile, right? That's measurable. Or I want to be able to run 30 minutes without stopping. That's measurable. So we're putting some sort of measurable component. If it's weight loss, it might be a number, right? I want to see this number on the scale, keeping in mind when you are strength training, you are going to gain muscle, which is going to reflect a different number on the scale. Or it might be a certain pant size, right? If you are doing therapy goals, how do we make those measurable? If it's anxiety or depression of, I want to reduce the number of days that I experience anxiety in a week down to 3 days a week, great, that's measurable. So find a way, whatever your specific goal is, how do you make it measurable? Whether it's how many days you engage in it or how many days it's absent, if it's a negative element that you're experiencing that you want to get rid of, whether it's a number, whether it's a distance, right? Try and find and explore the way, the one specific goal that you circle, how can you make that measurable? Go ahead and jot that down. Be very specific, right? I want to be able to run a mile in 30 minutes. Specific, right? I want to be able to run 30 minutes without stopping, right? Find your specific measurable goal, jot that down, and we'll move on. All right, we have our specific measurable goal that we now want to make sure is achievable. Achievable really comes down to, is your goal realistic? Is it set within a certain amount of time? And we will talk about this, the time frame piece, but is it set within a certain amount of time that is achievable? Do you have access to the things that are going to allow you to achieve the specific measurable goal that you have? If not, how can you start exploring ways to get access to it? So your achievable aspect of the SMART goals is really just making sure, is it realistic? Is this something that you can achieve? If not, then we need to go back to the specific goal. Maybe we need to reevaluate a little bit of, is it not specific enough, or is it maybe too specific to where it's a little bit rigid and it's placing me in an area that is kind of pigeonholing myself? Or is it not quite measurable enough? Or is my measure too large, right? Or is my measure maybe even a little bit too rigid and fine-tuned of, there's no way anybody could do that, right? Of like, and this is an exaggeration. But if I said, I want to run a mile in 5 minutes, okay, well, we're not cheetahs, right? So that's not an achievable goal, right? But we might want to do, could we run a mile in 30 minutes? Absolutely. I would say within this achievable goal as well, and I'll talk to clients about this as well, set your goal a little bit, or your expectation rather, a little bit lower than what you believe you could actually do. So if you know for a fact, oh yeah, I can do a mile easily within 30 minutes, great. Set it to 35 minutes, because here's why. If I know that I can do a mile in 30 minutes, I'm not going to be disappointed, right? If I set it to 35. But if I say I can do a mile in 25 minutes and then that doesn't happen, now I'm going to start getting disappointed. And I see this more in terms of starting out, right? Frequency of, let's say, I want to go to the gym 6 days a week. Okay, is that achievable, right? If you're an individual who has never gone to the gym or hasn't gone to the gym in a long time, and now all of a sudden we're going to go boom, right to 6 days, that's a hefty goal, right? That may not feel achievable right now. So then we go, okay, how many days a week do you know for a fact you can get to the gym? I know for sure I can get to the gym 2 days a week. Great. Bump it down to 1, because you know for sure you can do 1. If you do more than that, great. But if we say I'm going to do 6 days and then we don't get there, we can feel a sense of defeat, which is going to prevent us then from continuing to go. Same thing with our therapy goals, right? If we're okay, I want to go to therapy once a week. I know for sure I can go once a week. Okay, let's say every other, right? Because there may be some weeks where we just can't squeeze it in or we don't have the willpower or the mental capacity to go. But if I don't stick with that once a week goal, I'm going to feel a little bit down on myself. So I'm going to go every other week because I know that is very achievable. If I go above that, great. If not, I still met my goal. So making sure you take your specific and measurable goal and make it achievable, make it realistic. If it doesn't feel achievable, maybe we need to retweak and reevaluate the specific and the measurable aspect of it. All right, next we are looking at relevant. We want the goals that you are setting for yourself to be relevant. What does that mean? We want your goals to be in line with your values and your morals and what's important to you. It's so easy for us to get roped into, oh, that person's doing that and they saw a lot of benefit and it worked really well for them, so I'm going to do that too. Okay, it may have worked for them, but it may not work for you, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, that they're any better than you, that you're worse than them. It just means that your values and your morals and what's important to you and what you need in your life look different from one person to the next. That is okay. So, this relevant part of your SMART goals is really tapping into what feels good for me. What are my morals? What are my values, my beliefs? What do I want to improve? What's important for me to living a good life as my best self? So I would say start here. Find a relevant goal that aligns with your values, that aligns with your purpose, that is important to you, that's going to allow you to live a better life as your best self. And then make that relevant goal specific, measurable, and achievable. Okay, last thing when we're looking at setting SMART goals is we want to look at the time frame. We want to make sure we're putting it within a reasonable time frame, and we also want to have a time frame to know when should I be checking in? Am I making progress, right? It kind of fits into that measurable aspect. So, from a therapy side of things, when I'm working with clients on anxiety, depression, grief, divorce, whatever it might be, our treatment plans are usually set out to 90 days, 3 months. Does that mean you will have achieved your goals in 3 months? Maybe. For other people, no. But that 3 month time frame allows us to check in, right? So we're going to check in at 3 months and see how are we doing? How much progress have we made? How much of the measurable components have we met? Do we need to reevaluate? So, doing the same thing for yourself. So, if you do have a therapy goal of, I want to decrease the anxiety to experiencing it from 5 days a week to 3 days a week, I'm going to check in on how that's going in 4 weeks. I'm going to see what progress I've made within 4 weeks. If I'm not quite there yet, I might need to reevaluate some of the other aspects that I've looked at and then set another time frame. If it's fitness, okay, I want to try to run a mile within 30 minutes without stopping in 6 weeks. Okay, great. 6 weeks comes, how are we doing? So I think the time frame can be used either one as a check-in, or you can use the time frame as by this time I want to have met this goal. Keep in mind, if you are using a time frame for that purpose, making sure that the achievable part of these SMART goals is really highlighted. That's going to be really important. Is it possible to decrease anxiety to 5 days to 3 in 4 weeks? Probably not consistently. You might notice a reduction for sure, but to maintain that over time, it's probably not going to happen in 4 weeks, and that's okay, right? Is it possible to run a 1 mile in 30 minutes in 4 weeks if you haven't run in a day in your life? Probably not, and that's okay. So making sure this time frame is also realistic and achievable. Okay, so we know what SMART goals are now, right? We know what SMART stands for, and then we've also broken down every single part of it. So you guys have a pretty good guide and a tool to start setting really achievable and realistic goals within a certain amount of time for yourself. So after this video and exercise, you should have, and if you don't, that's okay, but you should have an idea of one specific relevant goal that is measurable, that's achievable and fits within a certain time frame, whether you're checking in on that certain time or you want the goal achieved by that time. Keep in mind, again, if you are doing the achieved at a certain time, make sure that time is realistic, right? Now, you can use these SMART goals for any goals that you have. It doesn't have to be just to this one specific goal. You can apply it in multiple areas of your life. Keep in mind, if you choose to do that, like I said at the beginning, sometimes we have a tendency to look at the full picture, which we can maintain for a certain amount of time, right? If we apply these SMART goals to every single goal that we have and we work towards every single goal that we want, that might be achievable for a certain amount of time. But then at some point, we get drained out, we get burnt out, we can't do it anymore. So then we either drop off a lot of our goals or we stop altogether. So to prevent that from happening, start with one goal at a time. And as that one goal starts to feel manageable, then you can tack on another goal. Slow and steady wins the race, right? I know we want that instant gratification. That is okay. And for that long-term benefit and to maintain these goals, slow is what's going to get you there. And these SMART goals will hopefully help you achieve that as well. So I'd love to hear what you come up with. I'd love to hear what SMART goals you're working on. Feel free to put them in the chat below, or you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Best Self Therapy. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not, because we have a lot of good content coming. Like I said, I will continue to talk about grief and loss and exposing grief for what it truly is. But I also want to start integrating some of those exercises and tools and skills to help you ultimately live life as your best self. We'll see you soon.